Hey guys, Neil here, and today I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on Deadstream. This is a 2022 found footage horror comedy. It was written and directed by Joseph and Vanessa Winter. It stars Joseph Winter as our main character and also Melanie Stone. The story here follows an internet personality. Yes, Joseph Winter plays Sean, who is a very famous internet person. He got famous by live streaming himself doing what are basically publicity stunts. They give a few examples at the beginning when things are getting kicked off. We see him doing like the Moses challenge, I think is what they called it. If you remember Moses from the Bible, he was found as an infant all swaddled up in a little basket floating in the Nile River. So this is what this challenge is based on. He wraps himself up basically like a mummy, gets into a raft and goes whitewater rafting. Yeah, so pretty dangerous thing to do, but those are the kinds of things that he did. And I don't remember the finer details of what it was that he did or said that caused him to lose his following, but yeah, it was a pretty major thing. Not only did he lose his fans, he lost his sponsors, got demonetized, all that good stuff. So this film is him live streaming what is going to be his comeback. Yeah, he is back, ready for action. He's apologizing, making amends. But what he's going to do for his very first live stream is to spend the night by himself in a haunted house. So yeah, it's a pretty common thing to see in horror, right? Some person or group of people, find themselves in a haunted house, and of course, things turn out to be real. Real ghosts, real demons, poltergeists, whatever. And that's the case here. But I did think it was a really interesting film to watch. Now, I'll be honest with you, I put this one off for a while. This is a Shudder original, so if you have access to Shudder, you can watch it for free. But that's where I first saw it, because I used to have a subscription to Shudder, and technically I think I still do. I think I've got it through Amazon with one of the other premium upgrades that I have. But anyway, I did eventually buy the Blu-ray for it. This is actually a steel book. It's a pretty nice little case here. But it was because the artwork and everything that I had seen for the film made me think that it was animated, and I don't particularly care to watch animated films. Just don't. They're just not my thing. Yeah, something I saw another screenshot of it or something like that. So it was definitely live action. And that kind of thing. So I went ahead and picked it up, and I'm glad I did, because this was like I said, a really interesting film. It's a horror comedy, and it's found footage. And for those of you that have followed me for any amount of time, I'm pretty much a sucker for found footage films. Even though a lot of them turn out to be not so great, there's just something about them that just draws me into wanting to watch them. So I watch a lot of them. And like I said, a lot of them are not all that good, but this one is one of the exceptions. I think this is a really good found footage film. And for that aspect of it, we see him, coming into the house. It's an old, dilapidated, abandoned house. Looks like, what you would expect. But this guy is definitely a professional when it comes to doing internet live streams. I mean, he has got so much gear with him, it's ridiculous. He's got a GoPro helmet on his head with the camera, so you get the point of view shots. He's wearing like a body harness that has another camera swung around so you can get the selfie view. He's got a laptop. He's got a couple of tablets that he uses to control switching back and forth between these two views. And he's done his research. He knows, the history of the house and, what it is that he expects, might be inside. If such things are actually real. But this is a horror film, so it is going to turn out to be real. But like I said, he's done his research. He knows which rooms in the house have been reported to have the most paranormal activity. So those are the first places that he goes, and he sets up, a night vision camera up in the corner that gives a nice view of the room. So, and then he also knows which room in the house, which is part of the comedy of this film that I thought was kind of amusing. Because this guy's a wuss. I mean, it doesn't take very long into the film for you to realize this guy is, yeah, he's just a wuss. He's scared to death and nothing has actually happened to him. But some of it's probably just his acting, for the live stream, being over the top. You know how these things go. But he has found, or he knows the room where there has never been any reported activity. So that's going to be a safe room. That's where he sets up his base camp. And he's playing by some rules. One, he's going to be alone. And two, he actually has to investigate if he sees or hears any evidence of paranormal activity. He can't just hide in his safe room all night. He's got to get out and go and see what that noise was. And his cameras that he has set up are motion activated. And he's got it set up so that if one of them detects anything, the stream just automatically, switches to that camera view so that the audience can, see what's going on. So that's the setup for this one. So this is definitely a trend we're seeing in horror now. It's been going on for a few years, well, actually quite a few years, but it's getting better and better. The way that they are incorporating the real world into horror. We've got, live streaming in this one, the internet, he is an influencer of a type, that kind of thing. And that's where a lot of the comedy in this film comes from. As a content creator myself, I don't do live streaming, but I have been a guest on other channels that do live stream to their audience. So, I have firsthand experience, at least to a degree of, what it's like to do this kind of thing. So a lot of the things that I saw here, just kind of reminded me of that. I did find them amusing, entertaining. The mentioning of, like demonetization. I mean, if you're a content creator, you know what that means. I mean, even I do. And my channel has never been monetized. It's not something I even have to worry about. But, one of the things that he does is, he doesn't curse because that can get you demonetized. And, of course, when the shit really hits the fan, he kind of forgets about all of that. And, he does say a few things. But yeah, it's and the live streaming aspect, I think, is what made it a little more interesting, as a found footage film, because most of the time found footage is just that. They just happen to be recording themselves with a camera, and after, they died, because that's how most of these films end. They die or just disappear because of the supernatural, occurrences that they encounter. The footage is just then found, and that's what we're watching. But here we are watching an actual live stream taking place on the internet. So that's another little twist, again, bringing in that modern technology. But it's done in a humorous fashion, but also a very realistic fashion. I mean, he calls up the chat, the live chat people. And at one point he's got like over 5 million people watching his live stream, which is a little over the top, but again, just adding to the the humorous references and stuff. It's not really feasible that a person would actually get over 5 million viewers on a single live stream while it was going on. But yeah, you see the live chat, you've got his ride or die supporters that have been there since the beginning, that are encouraging him, genuinely fearing for his life, that kind of thing. You've got the trolls. One of the funnier things is like the first troll that popped up in the live stream asked him if he was known as Crater Face in high school, and he's got the funniest comeback to it. He goes, "Well, back then it was just acne." So it's like, but he's that type of personality. He's very high strung. Like I said, he's a wuss. He's whining. He's he's what is that? What is that? And it's all over the top acting for the live stream, which, is realistic. If you've ever seen, TikToks and things like that, from these influencers, they are over the top, and they do come across most of the time, at least to me, as fake. That this is all just for the clicks. that ad revenue, shuffling people over to their Patreon. And that's also in this film. It's there's some definite self promotion. Where you can buy his merch. You can do all these things. Subscribe. For behind a paywall. So it was very realistic, but the way it's done, I thought was very amusing. So when it comes to the comedy factor in this film, I think it was very well done. It wasn't just the same old you get in a lot of horror comedies where there's just stupid fun. This is that, but it's also centered around something that is very real in our world today, and I like the way that they were able to bring this into the film. So that's the first part of my requirements on whether or not I like a horror comedy, because I do like horror comedies, but they can be very hit or miss. And the main reason a lot of times is because I just don't connect with the funny side of things, outside of horror. The like The Hangover. That was probably one of the bigger comedies that came out. I don't know how long it's been now. It's been quite a while, 10 years or so, I would guess at least. I was not a fan. I watched that movie and didn't care for it at all when it comes to horror comedy. Another big one that came out, years ago, probably one of the first horror comedies of the modern age that really, got a lot of attention and a lot of fans was Shaun of the Dead. I didn't care for that one either. My two favorite horror comedies that I can think of, in recent times, are Feast and Tucker and Dale versus Evil. So I like those, but some of the others are very hit or miss. But the comedy in this one, while I don't consider, it was just, balls to the wall hilarious, I did find myself laughing, when I was supposed to laugh at this film. So in that regard, I think it, it succeeded. The other thing when it comes to horror comedy, whether or not I genuinely like the film, is I'll think about it. If they had taken the comedy aspect out of it, would we still have gotten a good horror film? So, like in the case of Feast, if you've ever seen Feast, if they took the comedy out of that, yeah, it'd still be a pretty damn good creature feature. And Tucker and Dale versus Evil would have been a good horror film too if they had kept, a serious tone all the way through it. They would have had to have added some things to it because, the comedy was, a big part of it. And that's the same thing here. How well done the comedy was makes me fully believe that if they had chosen to do a serious horror film, that they could have, done a really good horror film that would have been genuinely scary. Because if they're that good at writing in the comedy aspects of it, I think they could have come up with a few, fresh ideas to turn the horror into something that was worth watching as well. So overall, I think this was a really good, interesting, funny little film. Obviously not going to give any details as to what really happens, in the film for you guys that haven't seen it. But it does have a lot of the typical, haunted house scares. A few of them are genuine scares. Yeah, it made me jump. As many horror films as I've seen, it did, have a jump scare or two in it that got me, which that's always a good sign. But it also, when it comes to the horror aspect of it, it had a few nods to other films in it. Like, our main character is Shaun. I have to think that's a reference to Shaun of the Dead since they're making a horror comedy. Don't know that for a fact, but I mean, they could have picked any name, and that's the one that they picked. But it also had, when we see the spirits or the ghosts that are in this film, heavily reminded me of the original Evil Dead. Yeah, I know a Deadite when I see one, and that's what I saw was a Deadite. So they definitely, like I said, were giving nods to some older films. And while, Evil Dead is not really a horror comedy, I watch it as one because it's hilarious. I know that, Sam Raimi was actually trying to go for a serious horror film when he made it, just didn't have the budget to really make it a truly scary horror film. So it ends up being more funny than it is anything else. But it's still a great film. I love it to death. So it was nice to see them give a nod, to that franchise here in this film. And the story is actually not too bad. It's got a little twist that happens with something that kind of happens once he gets into the house, like not quite right off the bat, but he hadn't been in the house very long before something happens, and it ends up being a little twist. I'll admit, I saw it coming. I don't know what it was that tipped me off, just probably my active imagination. But yeah, it was still a pretty good little twist, something good to add into a film of this type. And again, you just put everything together, and this was a fun, enjoyable horror comedy, and the fact that it was found footage just made it even that much better for me. So that's my thoughts on the film. If you like horror comedies and or found footage, you'll probably want to put this on your watch list if you haven't seen it already. And if you have seen it already, drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought about it. I always like to hear what you guys have to say. And before you head out, guys, if you would, smash that thumbs up for me. That like does help this video a lot, and I appreciate you doing that for me. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button while you're down there. I'd love to have you aboard. So as always, guys, thanks for watching, and until next time, we'll see you.